Ooh, those effing C words. Change and confidence, child. 2 words that are so scary they may as well be curse words. Let's talk about it. On this podcast, we'll share our stories about hardship and starting over, making professional pivots, ending relationships and friendships, and having the confidence to navigate change. I'm Marcia Cork, the change coach, and this is Ooh, Those Effing C Words. Happy Friday, MCs. Welcome back to another episode of Ooh, Those Effing C Words. I'm Marcia Cork. You guys wanted it, and now it's here. On today's episode, we have the male POV, the follow-up to episode 19, which was my Changed Ever After episode. This week, we're going to hear from 3 men with different perspectives and points of view when it comes to dating after divorce or separation. And this is going to be through the lens of either being divorced or dating women who are divorced or separated. So I have Malik Pollard, network TV producer and founder of Mad Flavor TV, which streams on multiple platforms with your Comcast Xfinity subscription. Now, Malik has navigated divorce and he's here to talk about it. And Malik, I imagine you can also share some observations and preferences on dating women who are divorced or separated as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We also have Corey Beelan. Corey is a gym owner and personal fitness trainer here in the DMV. You also know Corey from season 4 of the Oprah Winfrey Network TV show, Ready to Love. Now, from what I understand, Corey has dated a lot. Even as we speak, he calls himself the first date king is what he has on screen right now. So Corey's going to have lots of commentary today. When I reached out to Corey to be on the show, the first thing he said to me was that he has a unique perspective that's going to bring all the smoke. He asked me if I was ready for it. And to be honest, I do not know, but we will see. And finally, we have Cornelius Bryant, who also appeared on season 4 of Ready to Love. Cornelius is an engineer turned model actor who found love on the show. But what I love about Cornelius's perspective really is that with the length of time that he was on the show and the amount of exposure you can get, in this very insulated dating environment, I imagine Cornelius that you have, seen it all with regard to dating 10 women at the same time. So you've probably seen every relationship status and every relationship scenario that there is. So as a man of faith, I'm looking forward to hearing how your faith also shapes your preferences and the way you move in relationships with, women who are, possibly divorced or separated. I know there was a lot of variety in that mix there. And then also dating women who have children from previous relationships. So I think this is a good panel with, some unique perspectives, a little bit of smoke, maybe a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I don't know. We'll see. But welcome. I can't wait to start this conversation. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Appreciate you for having me. Yeah.
I'm amongst 2 experts here, so I don't know. They might have a better perspective.
No, you got it. You got it.
You guys are all experts. So I want this to be a fluid conversation. Now, of course, the women from episode 19 have some questions. I'm gonna pepper those in though. I'm gonna sprinkle them in. I don't want this to feel like a Q&A. So I'm going to start off with Malik because Malik, I know you've navigated divorce. So I want to start with you. When did you know, and I'm going to start this just like I started with the ladies. When did you know it was time to leave? What was a part of that decision? You can be vague. I don't want you to give specific details if it's, going to identify anyone. But when did you know it was time to leave? And did you do any type of mental work and preparation to get ready to leave?
I knew it was time to leave when I basically asked her. I basically we had gotten to a point where we actually filed for divorce, and ironically, the day before we were supposed to go to court was our anniversary, and at that point we had a heart to heart. And I went on with the celebration like, hey, this is our last day. we might as well take it out with a couple drinks and a bang. And then, I cried, she cried, and we decided that we would stay married. Unfortunately, I don't think we did the work. And so for the next year and a half, we kind of limped along. And I asked, I said, what are we doing? And and she was very honest and said to me that, she tried to flip the light switch back on, but could not. And it was at that point I was like, well, if you can't, then there's no need for me to be here any longer. And I think probably within 2 weeks I was gone. So I was preparing for it mentally. I knew that although I did the work myself, I went to counseling and therapy. We didn't go together, and I don't think at that time she felt that she was the problem. I was the problem, and so in that conversation that we had, a year and a half prior, I said that I'm willing to go to therapy. I'm willing to work on myself. She held me to it, and I held myself to it. But it got to a point where we needed to go together, and we didn't. So
was she?
Hold on. Quick question. You said that you didn't?
I did go to therapy.
No.
We didn't go. We didn't go as a couple. We did not go as a couple.
Was that your choice, or because she didn't want to go as a couple?
It was more her saying that I'm not the problem. You need to fix it. And so, it got to a point where even my therapist was like, well, I need to have both of you guys here.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at that, because for most women in this scenario, it's usually that the men are reluctant to go to therapy. The women usually want to go. And so to hear you say that you guys didn't do the work, I was actually expecting you to follow up with, she wanted to go to counseling and I didn't want to.
But and I don't want to say that this is it. I was married to a somebody who was in public service in a very testosterone driven profession.
Okay. I have a quick question for you. The quick question: would you say your ex-wife was a modern day woman?
Don't do that. Don't do that. So you can go into another question.
I'm asking a question. Hold on, ask the question. Would you classify her as a modern day woman?
Aren't we all modern day women?
Not all. No.
I'm gonna say. I'll say a couple things, and this is only my perspective and me looking back. We got married after 40. And so after 40, it's almost
after 40, so that means she knew better, right?
Well, people are established, right?
Yes.
And I think sometimes it may be, you think it's easy. I already got my thing. I already got my house. I already got this. I already got everything.
Yeah.
And the only thing you don't have, yes, sir.
Did she have children from a previous relationship?
Yes. And so did I.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So no, I mean, and and it was almost like this is the icing on the cake to spend your latter years or the rest of your years with someone. And again, it was just one of those things where, I don't really need this is something, and it almost felt like a microwave thing. Like, if something was bad, it went bad quickly.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's my perspective. And like I said, my ex-wife was a police officer, and I said, everyone's a suspect. And I'll leave it at that. Everyone's there's a little bit of maybe pessimism or cynicism. So that's why when I say she felt I was the issue, and again, I I blame myself for kind of I'm gonna say buying into that, but I really was like, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to try to fix it. But the light switch didn't turn on. Without at the end of it, that's what I was told.
I actually like that analogy.
So
ahead, Corey, you are
has she ever been married previous to that?
Twice before.
She's been married twice. Oh, wow. It's just, brother. This is it's adding up here. It's the snowballing effect here, man. Right now.
What is your analysis? Please share.
My analysis is that she is someone that should not have been married. She's not wife material. She's someone that is best suited to raise children on her own, provide for herself, be independent, be strong, and die alone. That's the typical type of person. She should have never been qualified for marriage material.
Why you say that though?
Oh, off the bat. I mean, let's be honest. When you get married to someone, it's a team, but understand when you're in teams, there's a team captain and vice versa. There's a hierarchy. And a lot of times that when you have alpha women with a lot of testosterone built in, these type of women work best with beta males. But yet these alpha women only find themselves being attracted to alpha men, and alpha men do not work with alpha women, aka the modern woman. That is someone who just should have had her kids. She had two chances at a family. You being the third, she blew her chances. There's no way in hell anyone should be considering this woman to be a suitable partner without her having extensive psychotherapy.
I agree. There's a lot of validity to what you're saying. I think you are very direct in sharing your opinion, but there is some truth to that. I do think that personalities play a lot in who we choose, but then ultimately who we are compatible with. And she probably attracts or feels that she's attracted to people who are just as strong as she is. But then when they get into the relationship, she finds that, like you said, two people can't run the same show. Sometimes one of us has to lead and one of us has to support. And then in other times, the other has to lead and the other has to support. So go ahead.
And then I was gonna say one key thing that you said earlier that I was kind of listening. You said that you said you wanted to go to therapy, but she didn't. Yeah. So that you wanted to do the work, but she didn't want to do the work. So that already was showing like you said, that dynamic a little bit where
the modern day woman lacks accountability. Yeah. And anytime that you force the modern day woman to have accountability, she will terminate that relationship and do all counterproductive things to end it.
Well, I wouldn't assign that being a modern.
Something messed up over there. See, right? You saying some stuff that got
exactly.
You.
I was going to say that.
And getting you over there.
Yeah, I wouldn't align that to being a modern day woman, because if you're talking about the alpha woman and the alpha male, I mean, these things have existed since the beginning of time. So it's not a modern day woman. I would say it's just a personality type. And you can still be an A-type personality and still know when to fall back, because we have to navigate these types of relationships, at work, sibling dynamics, it doesn't just play out in relationships. So it's really just a matter of knowing when you need to fall back, or when you're being willing to fall back sometimes. So I don't think that has anything to do with a modern day woman, so to speak. But when we're talking about the therapy, go ahead.
Let me respond. Let me add to that real quick, right? So I know some people are going to say, well, he can't say all, he can't say everybody. You're right. But we do generalizations a lot. Yeah. And so when I say generalization, generally a person that graduates college makes more money than the person that graduates high school, right?
Not necessarily.
No, I said generally. I said generally, a person with a college degree makes more money than a person with a high school diploma, right? Generally.
Okay, we'll go with it. We'll go with it.
Okay, but not all the time. But generally, which is the reason why people do certain things. So when I make statements of in totality, I'm making statements in general.
A generalization. Yeah.
Or what have you? Because some a lot of people will kick back like, "Oh, that's not everybody." But in generally, this is the case.
Yeah.
We make decisions based on the rule, not the exception. And so when I make these statements about the modern day women, I can start pulling out data left and right that will completely support what the general or what the rule is.
Right. Yeah, he's trying to be on this Kevin Samuels right now.
No. Hold on. Okay. First of all, I hate when people say this. He's on some Kevin Samuels type stuff.
No, I'm not mad what you just said.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying in general. Like it's to the point now that when someone says something that doesn't go with the norm, oh, he's Kevin Samuels. Dude, I've been saying for the last 30 years. Certain things about men and women. 30 years. My own mama says certain things about men and women dating. But it's like now, if someone says something that one of the persons said, all of a sudden it's a Kevin Samuels thing. No, it's not a Kevin Samuels thing.
So let me hear from you, Corey, with regard to relationships. And of course, like I said, we're talking through the lens of dating post-divorce or separation, but we also have our preferences. We have preferences and orientations. We know, who we think we're compatible with. We have types sometimes. So what is your type? What do you look for in a relationship? And are you open to women who have been divorced or separated or long-term previous relationships?
Well, for me, I'm gonna be honest with you. The older I get, the more precise I get with it. And like somebody like myself, I'll say this again. Type of woman I'm attracted to is a woman that's fit, feminine, friendly, and cooperative with no kids. Just to get started. And then after that, everything after that is negotiable when it comes to dating a woman. Because I know that there's no such thing as a perfect woman. But I got standards, just like a lot of women got standards. Us men got standards. Okay. Especially if I'm asked to be responsible for a woman, then guess what? There's certain standards that you got to pass.
And what were those 3 F's again?
Fit. I mean, let's be honest. If a woman really wants to increase her chances of getting the type of man that she wants, us men, we are visual creatures. And so if you're sickly and if you look sickly, and let's be honest, being overweight is a sign of sickness. If you look sickly, it's going to decrease your value of a man wanting to rock with you. If you're not friendly, that's going to decrease your chances of a man wanting to rock with you.
Okay.
If you're not feminine, the biggest turnoff to a lot of men is a woman masculinity. Don't no man want to be with no woman or put work with some woman, and the first thing she's gonna say, "I got my own. I don't need you. I'm good." Who wants to invest in a woman that feels like she doesn't need them?
Okay.
And then, like me myself, I don't have any children. I'm a firm believer that people who don't have children should date people who don't have children, and people who have children should date people who got children.
Okay. So what about confidence? Because if we're talking about coming out of a relationship, and sometimes there's trauma, there's baggage that comes with being in a previous relationship, I want to know how that fits into your overall rubric.
Yeah. So after I get through the preliminaries of just getting started, then I personally start diving into the personality, the background, where you from, how you got to where you got to, what are your issues, what are your deal breakers. I start diving into these things, and if I feel that it's too much for me to handle or would like to handle, I move on. But if it's just enough for me to deal with, then I'm a firm believer in that. Hey, look, sometimes you need to get help, expertise, or some type of guidance to navigate relationships. These relationships are a very complex thing to navigate when you got two people who don't really know how to navigate in a relationship. So be humble enough to say, hey, my mom always told me, she said, Corey, the best time to prepare for war is during peace. And so while it's good, why not get some help? Help may come from a relationship specialist or a counselor. Help may come from couples that have been happily married for years.
Okay. And you seek that kind of counseling and wisdom, insight from professionals when you're dating?
Oh, me personally,
maybe yes. Even advances to a long-term relationship. At what point do you entertain that?
There's no time limit. It just all depends on, hey, I got my checklist going on. You into me like I'm into you. You're emotionally available. A lot of women would tell you, "Oh, I'm emotionally available for a marriage," but when in real case, they're not. They're not. And so once I've gotten the information that I needed, then I got to make a hard decision. Is this somebody, like I said before, this is somebody I want to rock with, or somebody I don't want to rock with? Yeah. And a lot of women, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of modern day women are just not fit for marriage. They're fit for starting a family, ending it, starting another family, ending it, starting another relationship, ending it, starting another. That's what they're fit for.
All right. So where does this come from? I want to hear from all of you on this. Your models for relationships. Who do you look to model your relationship?
So as far as
friends, go ahead, Cornelius.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as me, so my grandparents were married, before passing away for about at least over 80 years, since they was like teens. So they both passed away when they was like 90s, 90 years older. And so they would be married like over 80 years. So and then my parents will be married 40 years. So I'm used to seeing that dynamic of but I would say my grandmother and my grandfather had a nice yin and yang. My grandmother was definitely I guess you would say a leader and somebody that was very boisterous, is what they talked. And so they definitely was, I'll get you, what's the word, strong woman, I guess you would say, in a sense. And then my grandfather was also strong as well, and had a provider, lover, like he had that same type. So it was nice little balance there. So it's the same thing with my parents. They have that kind of like that balance. My mom, she's a business owner, has her own stuff going on. My dad also is a business owner as well. So they kind of both but still work together. So I've always been attracted to a woman that is a leader, that is strong, that is, even though they might say, oh, you may not be able to handle that, I may not be as loud, as boisterous as she may be. But at the same time, when it's time that I need to say something, I'm going to say something, or I'm going to make sure I put her in check, or I'm going to make sure that, hey, look, we need to talk, or I need to, but I may, out and about, we may, let me let you pop off, whoop, whoop. But when we get in closed doors, like, hey, yeah, you sit there down somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's a good balance, that I've always had. And that's what most of my relationships has always kind of like been like, oh, it's that look. If I may not say nothing across the room, but I may look at you across the room like chill out. You know what I mean? And so
I've seen that happen before too. Cornelius gives a death stare and they be like, he's giving me that look. So I've seen that look. It works, lady. It's real.
Oh yeah, nonverbal communication, especially with you when you're with someone who speaks it. Yeah.
Cornelius does that very well.
I'm a little off on the back end. I'm real nice in public, but I'm a little off on the back end. But yeah, I've always been attracted to a strong woman, strong women, especially coming off the show. Everybody was like, how you gonna be able to deal with a type of girl like that? I was like, you'll be surprised. You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm used to. That's why I was attracted to that, because actually she reminded me of a girl that I dated coming out of college. They acted similar. So it was nothing for me. So yeah, I would say that.
Okay. Malik, you've been quiet for a minute.
You know what? I was sitting here and I was thinking about when, that question when you said about who do I look to as a role model relationship. Outside of my probably my grandmother and grandfather, you know, sometimes what you think you know, and then what you learn later can shock you, you know. And I would, if you had asked me that question probably 6 months ago, I probably would have said, you know, my aunt and uncle that raised me. But you know, just a recent conversation with my aunt, she was, you know, she was very transparent, and she said, had your uncle not got sick, we may not have made it. And it shocked me because that's all I knew since I was like 10 years old. I mean, through the Black Power movement and everything, and changing their names to African names or whatever, I always was like, you know, they stuck by each other and freedom fighters with each other and everything for each other. And so it was a shock to hear that.
Yeah. That you don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
And as children, we don't know.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I'm saying? Because it ain't our business. That's grown folk business.
And sometimes it is better to see the ups and downs, to have people model the ups and downs, and that you can overcome the downs.
Right.
You know, we talk about the peaks and valleys. Sometimes you need to see both to know that you can overcome when you get
and if there's anything to model, obviously, it's that they were able to, through those ups and downs, obviously, you know, they were able to stay married 40 plus years. But it, you know, I would have, and I'm still probably would consider them as a model because, like I said, you know, you need two people that's willing to fight for it, willing to fight for each other. And I definitely believe my aunt fought, and I think my uncle did as well. So, you know, I would say my aunt and uncle, even with that little shocker. But that's what happens when you get older. You know, your folks start telling you things that you be like, I didn't know any of this.
They tell you what you can handle when you're ready to handle it.
Right, when you're ready to
handle it. Yeah.
So
that question is actually one that came from the women in the panel. And
I'll get to answer that question.
We're gonna get back to you. So just to give you some context, they were asking that question because of a little bit of what we were saying before, that sometimes the men in their lives aren't willing to do counseling, aren't willing to put in the work. And in these cases, they were, and the men were not. So to hear you all kind of advocate for therapy and say that you're willing to do it, willing to put in that work, that maybe you all are dating with, you know, purpose and intention. And this could come from us all being in our 40s. I mean, I don't know if this might have been a different conversation if I was talking to all of you in your 20s and 30s, but so what she's saying is, you know, are you ready to be married? Are you really dating with purpose and intention to ride this out, to put in the work that it takes to sustain this? Are you doing this because you've seen positive examples of marriage and that's what you want for yourself? Or is it more of societal pressure? Is it more of, it's time to get married because now I'm in my 40s, or all of my friends are getting married, or, you know, my family is pressuring? And then maybe you approach marriage or the amount of work that you're willing to put into it, depending on why you're getting married, if it's of your own choice or if it's from societal pressure in any way.
Yeah, I would say to that, for me, I probably didn't start thinking about marriage until probably maybe 4 to 5 years ago, when I think I started. I guess it's one of those things where you realize, okay, in order for me to accomplish everything I need to accomplish, I need a helpmate. I need somebody to help push me. Need somebody to help, you know, I can't do everything by myself. You know, if I'm starting a business, if I'm doing this over here and doing that over there, if I'm outside cutting the grass and I come back in the house, like I cook for myself too, you know, so it definitely gets very toilsome. So when you're trying to handle and manage so many different things, I guess this goes back to, you know, that's the Bible that, you know, when Adam and Eve, that's why created Eve because Adam had all the animals that he had to name, and he had so much work to do that at the point he was just like, I need help, and that's why he gave him somebody to come along the ride, but also too is knowing your purpose, obviously too, knowing what you're meant to do on this earth, and if you know what you're meant to do on this earth, it kind of helps. So when somebody does come along, you say, hey, this is what I want to do. We want to, bam, we got to get this business started. This is where we're trying to go, and this is where we're trying to go. And if you're a believer in God, this is where I feel like God is leading us in a marriage together, and where we can go. And so,
I'm glad Pastor.
Don't do that.
Gave his testimony from a biblical standpoint, but from a non-biblical standpoint, I personally wish that the older generation would talk to us and stop lying to us about relationships. Because the fact of the matter is that we were not put here on this planet to be alone.
Okay.
We weren't. We strive in community and we die in isolation. And so if people, now keep in mind, my parents have been married 53 years, overly happily married. I've never seen anything quite like that, right?
Okay.
And to me, growing up, I grew up in a 300 house community. Everybody's married. Everybody is a double parent household. So I've seen this on multiple different levels.
Okay.
If people would actually, if we would actually talk to our children early and start teaching them about, hey, you need to be prepared to lead a family. You need to be prepared to take care of a family. Hey, this is how you interact with a partner. This is how you support. You give, you pour in, you receive. All the things that actually matter in relationships and being able to sustain these relationships, I think people would be getting union earlier and also staying together. Because what happens is, what a lot of people don't realize this, is that we are creatures of habit. When you get into a relationship and get out of a relationship, if you do that enough, that's all you really know how to do is get in and get out. You've never developed the skill to actually problem solve, get over, keep moving. I was talking to a couple that was married 62 years, and I asked her one time, I said, hey, what was your big secret to staying together? And she said simply, just don't break up.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, yo, it's always going to be problems. You're going to have problems by yourself. You have problems with somebody else.
So where was the lie? Where was the lie? Where do you feel like we're being misled?
Well, personally, I think the modern woman is being misled. Telling her to the point that, hey, you don't need a man. It's better to be by yourself than be in a certain situation. That's a lie, because right now, I've been having this conversation a lot lately. I'll get phone calls and like, hey, I'm 40 plus, you're 40 plus, you're single, I'm single, hey, let's get together. And I'm like, wait a minute, shorty, you've been used and abused and all this other stuff. Why all of a sudden now I want to rock with you? Because they're finding out that these modern day women are finding out that the career is not as fulfilling as they thought it would be. They starting to find out that, oh, I can't have a child because I'm so much older now, and it's really expensive to try to do it medically. They start realizing these non-truths. Like the best superpower that a woman has is the ability to procreate. That's her number one superpower. But they lied to these women and told them, hey, you don't have to have children. You can wait. It's not that important. Get a career. It's not. My mother would tell you right now. My mother is a career woman, and she will tell you, she says, yo, when I say career woman, meaning she's running her own department, the whole thing. She says, yo, there was nothing more fulfilling in life than having two sons and a husband. She said the career doesn't match up. And I'm having this conversation a lot with women where they're telling me, yo, it's not.
So what do you want? What do you want? Based on what has been modeled for you, based on what you've dissected in these relationships that you feel are adequately representative of what you want. What do you want?
Say that one more time.
I said, based on your analysis or your observation of these relationships that seem to represent what you want, the ideals that come out of the conversations that you've had with your elders and these relationships that you look up to, what do you want in a relationship?
What I would want is to have is to procreate with a woman. That's the number one thing, is procreate with her. Second, I would like to have a fruitful partnership, not a marriage, a fruitful partnership, lifetime partnerships, because right now marriages are only good for a minimum of 12 months. After 12 months is over, your marriage could be over at any given moment. And I only say 12 months because in most states, in order to file for divorce, you have to be separated for at least 12 months.
Okay. So are you saying you don't need to be in a marriage?
Me personally, I personally don't need to have a ceremony. I don't need to have a sheet of paper to say that I'm married. Being married is not fully based on, hey, you had a ceremony, you signed a piece of paper. Being married is a commitment between you and another person. Being married is a daily activity. Being married is a mental and emotional commitment to be had. Because right now, when I look at it, the way I see it now, based off relationships today, the big commitment is not marriage, it's children. Because when you have a child with somebody, you're partners for at least 18 years. You have to deal with this person for 18 years. Hey, bro, let me ask you a question, bro. When you got married, was this your first marriage or second marriage?
For me, it was my second.
Your second. Yeah, so let me ask you a question. On your second marriage, if the state told you, if you married this woman, you had to stay with her for 18 years, living in the same house for 18 years, no matter what, would you still have married, to be honest?
Yeah, no, I mean, look.
I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing, Corey.
Would you have stayed with her? Would you have married her if they told you got to stay in the house with her for 18 years?
Well, you know what? I mean, at the time, I would have probably taken that and said yes. But as you said, once you are in it, and things happen, you're going to be tested. I mean, your union, your marriage, I mean, just living with someone is going to be tested. It's really going to come down to how you handle that, how you grow from it, individually and together. And so some can and some can't. So,
let me give you a little insight. Most people would say no. If they know they got to roll with 18 years, they're saying no.
Yeah. So you're saying they're willing to do that with having children.
Yeah. They'll
have going into it.
It perplexes me. I to this day, I don't get this. If a woman's goal, especially if she's black, if you're a black woman, if your goal is to get married and have a family, the most unproductive, counterintuitive thing you can ever do is go out and have a child outside of wedlock. But they do it. I just do not understand. Help me understand that. If your goal as a black woman is, hey, someday I want to get married and have a family, and you go out and have a kid with a guy that you are not married to, the numbers tell you that you are not going to get married until after your kids are 20-some plus years. I mean, 20-some plus years of being in our relationships, or the bulk of it being alone. I don't get it. I would never do it.
Have you been married before, Corey?
The answer to that question will be no for right now.
Okay. Can you explain that answer?
I was putting that answer to the point where there have been women that I was ready to emotionally, physically, financially, mentally make them my life partner and move forward from that point. So yes, there have been two women that I'm ready to say, hey, look, this is it. But these women, but those particular women would always come back around and say, you're an awesome guy, but you're a great guy, but you're too proactive, but, and I just be like, all right, cool. Keep it moving. There is a woman out here that's for me that has the same values, that values family. being married is not just, like I said, being married is not something that you just do. It's something that you live. That's your family.
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, you definitely, and I, again, hindsight is 2020, right? So you definitely want a life partner. I mean, because for some people, marriages is a status, it's a piece of paper, it's whatever. It's $30,000 that, or more than that you spent for other people to come and drink your drink and eat your food. So you definitely, you want a life partner. You want a life partner. That has to be what you strive for. But it doesn't have to come in the form of a piece of paper or a ring. I mean,
but we're not being taught that. Women are constantly. I had a conversation with a woman the other day who's in her 40s. I say, hey, would you just mind just meeting a guy and just start a family, and you guys agree to start a family? She's like, no, I gotta be married first. I gotta be married first. I was like, why? A marriage is not a guarantee that you guys going to be together. The child is a guarantee, because
okay.
Let me. Women walk away from marriages.
I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that part about the marriage part. I mean, a lot of people, they want to actually. I mean, depending on, like you said, depending on your morals, right? Depending on what your morals are, depending on what your beliefs are. But a lot of times, like you said, out of wedlock, if I have a child with you without, and I'm not married, and that's out of wedlock. So I want to make sure that we sanctify that we have that commitment, and then we can have a child. That's how I would want. That's actually why I haven't been, married or had a child yet, because I want to make sure.
But Cornelius, the marriage is not a guarantee that y'all gonna be together.
No, it's not. It's not, right? It's not, right? But like I said, it just depends on your morals, right? If you do something before God and you're taking your vows seriously, then yes, it is a commitment. It is something that you're going to stay in. But if you don't take it seriously, then no, you can get divorced, whatever. I mean, it's not saying divorce is right, but I mean, I'm not trying to be political here, but through the law of Moses, allow divorce to happen.
I hear what,
I want to hear from Malik. What were you about to say?
I hear what Cornelius is saying, and definitely, if you both have those spiritual values, and I guess maybe even of the same denomination or faith, but when I got married, it was two becoming one before God, and the human beings are human beings. I understand that you take those vows seriously, and there's the spiritual aspect of it. But at the end of the day, if we're just human, again, you could do that in front of a pastor and still get divorced, and what was ours is now mine, and once you bring the human element into anything, and you know how it is. Once you bring the element into it, the spiritual aspect sometimes just goes straight out the window.
And I always even say too, and then I kind of go even from geographically too, as far as marriage. Like, so I realized when I was living in Kansas, that was a lot of people's ceiling, was to just get married, have their kids, and just be in their house, and that's it. Which for me, I'm like, okay, there's gotta be more to it than just this. So, but a lot of times, a lot of people, when I live in Kansas, when I lived in Memphis, a lot of people get married, there wasn't as many distractions because of the city life or because of the fast pace. Yeah, but I found that I've been up here in the DC area, people, they may be divorced, whatever, but they will, like you said, do a career, maybe get married after 40 or late 30s, because they're doing a career. It's just a fast-paced life out here, and you can actually do that out here and actually have options of hanging out. Because a lot of people, I go out certain places, it be people older than me partying and kick, you know what I mean? So it's just, but if you go down south, you may not get those type of environments like that, you know what I mean? So it's easier to kind of like play the field, and it's like I said, it's a serial dating area out here. You got the DC, you got Maryland, you got Virginia. It's a lot of options, a lot of, and everybody's got a career. Everybody's got making six figures, got their own stuff going on, business, whatever. Everybody's got something going. So it's easy to be like, oh yeah, he's an engineer, or oh, he's a business. Like, I can go from and actually continue to date a level of guys out here. So especially for Black women, What you about to do? You got these faces
wait.
for?
So you said something, Cornelius. You said serial dating. So I want to ask this, since we're talking about dating after divorce or separation, and Malik, you mentioned earlier, one of you mentioned earlier about the the 12 months that you have to wait before you can file for divorce, things like that. So how soon is too soon? Coming out of a relationship, divorce, separation, long-term relationship. How soon is too soon before you jump into another relationship?
Can I start? Then I'll let Corey jump in.
Sure.
You know what? For me, and Corey asked earlier, this was my second marriage, and like I said, I felt that I started the work. I'm not going to say that, obviously, therapy and counseling is something that is continuous or can be. So I started the work, and coming out of it, I wasn't really looking to date. It's funny because I have friends, I'm 50 now. I turned 50 this year, but I have friends in the late 40s, 50s who have said, they go to dinner by themselves, they go to movies by themselves, they go on trips by themselves, all of that. But for me, since I was 16, I've never really had to do anything by myself. And so it was kind of weird. And I was like, I could go to a movie by myself, but I laugh a little harder when somebody's laughing next to me. So I was a little selfish in that, I was going out with women, but to me, it was hanging out. It wasn't intentional. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't trying to, pardon my French, I wasn't trying to fuck them at the end of the night. I just was like, I'm using you for as much as you using me, because I'd rather go to the movie with
companionship,
than to go alone.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, for a long while. And it was funny how some women was like, I don't know. They were kind of like, well, is that it? And I was like, yeah, that's it. We over. We ate. And then it was another thing. It was like, because I am where I am, if we go.
Said, well, that's the night.
If we go somewhere like Ruth Chris, or we go to a nice restaurant, I'm like, well, I don't eat at Applebee's. So I'm not going to take you to Applebee's, but it's not that I'm trying to hit or anything. Just understand, I like a good steak, but I want to enjoy it with somebody I can have a conversation with. So I did that for a long while. And then finally, I'm not going to say finally, then I met someone that we hung out, and I was interested in. And the funny thing about it is, I told my ex, because my ex kind of knew them, even though, social media is one thing where you don't know somebody, but you feel like you know them.
Right,
and,
you're familiar.
Ladies that going around saying sis, everybody's not your sis. I don't call everybody my bro, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing. And so, but I wanted to make sure she didn't hear it from somebody else. So I told her, I said, hey, I'm thinking about dating or whatever.
So how long was that after divorce?
Shoot, that was, then the pandemic happened. That probably was 2 years of me just kind of just hanging out or whatever. Now I'm not gonna say everybody I hung out with, it was just like, look, if shit happened, it happened. I'm sorry, I'm cussing.
No, you're good.
It happened, but that wasn't my intent. It was just me trying to, be like, I don't want to go to the movies by myself or whatever. I'd rather do it with somebody and have a good time. So that was my approach. So maybe 2 years before I really started thinking about dating, but in between that time, I was hanging out with people.
All right. Corey and Cornelius, how soon is too soon?
Me personally, I don't think there's nothing ever too soon. I mean, if you can get divorced on Sunday, be dating on Monday.
I already know that's how you.
But if you do that, here's my caveat to that, right? If you do that, you have to be first honest with yourself and then honest with the person that you're spending time with. And when I say honest with yourself, you need to be honest with yourself and say, what are you emotionally available for? If you're just emotionally available for just some type of companionship or hanging out, tell the person that you're rocking, that's spending their time, hey, I'm emotionally available for just hanging out. Then let them.
I was very honest. So that's a good point.
Then let them make a decision if they want to do that. If you're emotionally available to actually start a family with somebody, tell the person where you at, and hopefully that they're being honest and say, hey, I'm on the same page or I'm not. A lot of people aren't being honest, with their partner, but they expect for their partner to be honest with them. And then they're not being honest with themselves to say, this is, hey, I just want a friendly benefit. It's okay, ladies, if that's what you want to do, as long as everybody's being safe, then say that's what I want. But if you're looking to really rock with somebody and you are emotionally available to really invest, let your partner know and proceed. So like I said, there's never no too soon, as long as everybody's being honest about where they are emotionally.
Okay, Cornelius.
Well, I would say it's gonna probably be a little bit opposite of that in a sense, but for me, I would say anyway, I think there needs to be some time, right? I think a lot of times, especially if there's sex involved, if you know, or especially come out of marriage for sure, and then even if you're with somebody like just dating or whatever, and y'all been together for like a year or whatever time period, and there's definitely emotional ties that's been happening, spiritual ties that happen, regardless of you spiritual or not. There's ties that happen where you may know that person's day, you may know, okay, I know at this time I usually call them, but now that you're not talking anymore, it's like now you have to you're in your mind, you're programmed to like, damn, I'm supposed to be calling around this time. It's like now you have to me, it need time to heal, to kind of like get that out of your system in a way, so that you're not taking that into another situation. So for me, I dated somebody at the end of 2019, 2020. I dated somebody towards the end of 2020. When I broke up with her, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna chill out. Especially I think that was kind of like during the pandemic, a little bit, or kind of telling of the pandemic, where everybody was closed in the house and we needed therapy and this and that, whatever. I said I'm gonna get back into the church. I was here, but I hadn't been a member here the whole time I lived here, mostly until 2021. So beginning of 2021, after I'm come out of a relationship, I said I'm gonna get involved in the church. I'm a completely delve myself into the service and try to get figure out what's going on and really seek that spiritual leadership, so that when I do get another relationship, I'll at least have some kind of guidance or somebody I can go to for guidance, so that when I do get into something later on, it will so like I said, even before, like I said, getting on the show, I hadn't dated anybody. I think it was like 7-8 months I hadn't dated anybody, or even when I think I went out maybe one day, I didn't even go on dates. You know what I mean? So just because I wanted to make sure I got that person out of my system and I did the right healing and all those different things. So like I said, everybody's different. Everybody can just jump in one. But to me, I feel like when you do that, you can take certain baggage and then throw it to the other person, where a lot of things you just say, oh, they used to do this, and you'll put that on the other person. They may do one little slight thing, maybe similar, and you like, oh, you see, you doing the same thing, and I'm like, no, I'm really not. But
and that was one of the things I put in our conversation points for the night was, sins of the husband, or sins of the other, basically. And you carry
I have a question for
the next relationship. What was that, Corey?
I got a question for Cornelius. because we all know that Cornelius is my boy, and Cornelius always refers back to when the time for relationships. Oh, I to go to church and get spiritual guidance through the church. Cornelius, my question is, has it ever really been an option to go talk to the people who know you the best and that you've seen firsthand how a relationship should work? Why not use them as your major counsel?
No, I do actually. I talk to my mom a lot. I talk to my dad, as a firm believer, kind of, he'll tell me some things here and there, but he kind of lets me figure things out as well. But like I said, I go to my mom all the time. I go to my cousin. I think a lot of times I go to probably more guys now. I'm starting to learn to go to more guys for counseling, because a lot of times I was going to my cousin, a female cousin who is single, and a lot of times I would tell her certain things, but at the same time it can be more quicker to, especially the fact that she's single, it can be the fact that it can be quicker to retreat versus like staying in it. now, I'm seeking out, me still in a relationship. I went to one counseling with a pastor, but I also want to go through another program where they match you with another married couple.
Yeah.
I feel like that would help give some type of backing of really at least having another married couple to kind of seek you and counsel you in the same time. And they also being Christian as well, but also being real at the same time. And so a lot of times, people get engaged, but then they go through marriage counseling. But I'm trying to believe a pre-engagement counseling.
Yeah.
So that way, before you put it, put a ring on, put it on Instagram, blow it up. Hey, I'm getting engaged. And then you're like, all right, now I got to break this off, or I got to go ahead and go through it because I already made an announcement about it. So I said, instead of,
so what? Who cares what complete strangers think on social media? Who cares?
This is the reason why I was saying. This is the reason why I'm saying I like pre-engagement counseling, because a lot of times people will go ahead and just get married, even though they see the problems when they go through marriage counseling. When after they got engaged, they will see a lot of the problems, but they was like, well, I didn't already made it out. I already put it out there. My parents, we already planning stuff. And they'll go ahead and just get married.
Yeah.
But if you can see those things before you even get engaged, you can kind of, you can cut that embarrassment part out, or that part where you feel like you have to go ahead and just do it. And so
you can negotiate some terms around it, or how to resolve it. Okay, but before we move on from that, you all had varying opinions on when it's too soon, or if too soon even exists. But what about just based on principle? If we're talking about someone being separated, legally separated, but not divorced, any philosophy or principles there on whether it's okay to date while a person is still legally married but separated?
What's the difference? Once again, this whole separation thing is a legal term. Once you decide I'm out, it's over.
Okay.
Oh, I'm separated. It's over.
Okay.
Once you break that covenant, it's over.
Malik, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, look, for all intents and purposes, I was separated, still living in the home. But at the point where I left, I knew I wasn't ever coming back. You know what I mean? At the point where I left, I knew I wasn't coming back. I fought as hard as I was going to fight, and so yeah, that whole separation thing, and it's a legal thing. They want you to be separate from the home for a certain amount of time, and I think even in Maryland that law has changed a little bit. Where it doesn't require the 12 months. And so
Malik, not in Maryland, Malik, it's still 12 months of living in separate residence.
Okay.
You have to be in separate residence for 12 months before filing for divorce.
Yeah, and if I'm going to be totally honest, I was separated all the time. I was hanging out and everything. And that's probably one of the reasons why. That's probably one of the reasons why I had to go to my ex, because we were still married at the point where I said, "Yeah, I'm ready to date." And so at that point, I was like, I was like, "Yeah, let's get divorced because it's done." and
Cornelius,
so
Cornelius, where are you on that?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Because the thing is, I've dated women that will say and like I said, it's depending on if you believe them or not. They'll say I'm separated or I'm done with my husband, but at the same time they still live in the house with them. So I don't know if you really separated or if you really y'all still could be messing around too. I don't know what y'all doing, or y'all could. You may say, I think I was one girl I think I was talking to one time, and she said she was filing for divorce. And I said, okay. And so I was, so I talked to her anyway, because I was okay. She said she's filing for divorce. I'll talk to her in the meantime, whatever. And we will see if we can do something after they finally get divorced. We can actually get in a relationship. But at the same time, we were kind of like, we had this little thing. We was, we had some, I come in town, I hang out with her, And then, man, I look on Facebook.
I always find that funny when people say they're filing for divorce. Yo, it's about a 2-week process. You don't go in every day for 2 weeks. You go in one time, file paperwork is over with.
Right. And so,
I'm filing for divorce.
So yeah, so she said she was filing, but next thing I know, I look around Christmas time. I'm trying to hang out with her, and she's up taking pictures with her husband. I'm like, wait a minute. and then he's on the back end, messaging me, and so we actually me and her husband actually used to play football together. So he was friends on Facebook too. So he actually messaged me on Facebook. Was like, "Hey man, why you doing my wife?" I'm like, "She told me she was separated."
Oh goodness.
She told me she was separated. I'm thinking, bruh, I'm not trying to mess with her if she's still with you. You know what I mean? And so, but that's what she was telling me. And then find out she was lying. She was saying she was separate, but they were still. I don't know what they was doing. But so now I'm a little bit more cautious when a woman says that, just because of that experience. And so when it says she's separated, until I see some papers that you divorced, I'm not doing it. But
okay.
Well, Cornelius,
Man,
the way you saw that
he's a good guy.
And Cornelius, the way you saw that is to ask to come over for a home visit. Hey, can I come over for dinner? If she can't let you come over, they still together.
That part, and the funny thing, I was calling the house, like, you know, we call each other really early in the morning. I called the house one morning, and I think he messaged me like, "Hey man, you waking us up? you waking us up?"
Wow.
I'm over there looking over. I guess he looked over on the phone and said, "I'll call," and I was like, "Bruh, y'all in the bed together? Like, come on, I'm done."
Yeah, hey, Cornelius, they laying in bed. He want to do it, and she's like, "I'm tired. I'm gonna go to sleep." She roll up and text you, "Hey, I can't sleep. What you doing?"
That part. That's exactly what she's doing.
I definitely need to gauge what does separation mean with women. So now, in the same house, definitely not, because like you said, if I can't come over there or come over to your crib or whatever, that's the issue. Like, well, you can't come over. You know, I'm not coming over if you still live with your separated husband anyway. But the other thing,
you all are surprising me with a lot of your answers tonight.
and look, the other thing is, I don't know if this is a woman thing, but when you tell a guy that, you know, they always have a special place in your heart, I'm not dealing with that woman, because if he always has a special place in your heart, then that means he always, from a guy's perspective, because if you tell me that, I'm gonna be like, oh, well, then I know I can come back whenever I want. Now, maybe that may be my arrogance, but the fact that you told me that gives me a little inkling that, yeah, I probably could come back.
All right, so where are you all now? What are you looking for?
Oh, geez.
Well, like in this relationship, and it's funny, I don't know if we got to it or not, but I know you had a question on there about dating somebody that's been previously engaged or something like that. I don't know if you remember that. Mm-hmm. So obviously coming from the show and everything, I'm sure it is known, but you know, I'm dating somebody that was actually engaged 3 times. So I think in dealing with in the situation currently, I that's why I'm being that's why currently I am going through, or we're getting ready to start next month, pre-engagement counseling.
Okay.
Just to make sure that we're still not making the same mistakes that we did before. I've never been engaged. I never proposed to anybody. So whatever my first situation is gonna be my first situation, getting on the knee. Okay. And that's something that we have talked about is you know, what does that look like? In fact, the 2 other guys already did this, you know, you know, how does that look like when I do it, you know, or, you know, coming, you know, and so I think, you know, the biggest thing is saying, you know, that, you know, there were mistakes or this situation from my understanding, she called a lot of them off, the other situations, and was too young or wasn't ready. So I think now being more mature, being more aware of who you are, and as my purpose to make sure we have the right backing. And that's why I'm doing the extra steps to make sure we have the right backing and go through the right counseling and the right discernment as well to make sure that, hey, you know, you are ready and we are ready to do this together. And even the timing, make sure the timing is right as well. So
yeah. And what does that look like? The counseling, is that one-on-one? I mean, is that the 2 of you, or are you both also seeking counseling independently?
So the counseling that we've done so far has been, you know, us together with a counselor. And then the one coming up, I think they do like group stuff initially, but they also pair you up with another married couple. And so in that you have that person that you can all, even like I'm hoping beyond the that process, you can also go to for counseling.
Okay. But also some one-on-one?
I've done my own one-on-one early this year. It was for probably other reasons than probably relationship. Probably was probably because some other stuff going on with the show and all that stuff. But I am probably going to definitely. I did that one point. I think she did as well at one point. And so I think come move forward, you have an own counselor as well. I haven't found one yet, but I see that coming in the future as well.
Okay.
I'm willing to counsel you guys, Cornelius, if you want.
Now, Corey's been my
soundboard. A lot of
experience. Corey is definitely my soundboard through a few situations. So,
Corey, where do you stand? It sounded like earlier you were saying you take commitment in whatever form it takes. Doesn't have to be marriage, can be long-term relationship.
Well, for me, like I say, it doesn't, like, I tell women all the time, like, they'll say, "You trying to get married?" I'd be like, "No." Why not? Because marriage ends in divorce. So why would I want to do something that ends in divorce? And they look at me like I'm crazy. I tell them, like, "What do you want?" I want a lifetime partnership. I want somebody who's really committed, who really is committed and understand that this is going to be one of the hardest things we'll ever do in life, but at the same time, most rewarding and fun if we're both emotionally ready for it.
Okay.
Corey, you're not trying to get married again? No marriage no more? No marriage?
Oh, once again, when people ask me, "Hey, I want to get married," I'll tell them all the time, "For what? I don't want to get married. Marriage is something that fails. It fails. I need a lifetime commitment." What that lifetime commitment looks like, that's open for negotiations of what that looks like. I'm trying to change the narrative. If I keep doing the same things that everybody else is doing to fail, I'm going to fail. Like I tell people all the time, right? I ask people this question, right? People who want to get married, I ask them this question. I say, "Hey, would you take your life savings and put it into a stock that's 60% of the chance you're going to lose your money?" They all say no. Then I ask them, I says, "Hey, would you still put your life savings in that same stock where 80% of the time the CFO is quitting the company because he can't quite get the numbers right? Would you still invest in it?" They all say no. Well, guess what? That's marriage. 60% of marriages in the United States fail in divorce, fail, and 80% of marriages are being filed by women. So for me as a man, that's not a good deal to marry somebody. To in the context of marriage. So I need someone to understand that this is bigger than marriage. We are bigger than marriage.
You got a 1 in 1 chance.
I will agree.
A 1 to 2 chance.
Agree with Corey on the point that men don't typically leave their wives. It definitely is the women that leave.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the other pastor was telling me too. He did say that. Yeah.
For some reason, women feel as though they're happier being alone. When you're in prison, the harshest punishment you can give somebody in prison outside of the death penalty is solitary. Okay. So why are women choosing to be solitary, to confine themselves to solitary? Why? I don't get it. When you're 50 and 60 years old, it's not cool to be sitting at home alone.
Well, they, like I said, they say that it's better to be alone than be miserable in the house with somebody or whatever. That's what I hear a lot of women say.
Well, Cornelius, choose right. Choose right. How about that? True. How about choose right? How about choose better?
Well, they are choosing better.
You know what the thing is? I mean, Cornelius, the thing I will say is that, and this is not every circumstance, but some women think they're miserable until they're alone, and then they realize how miserable they actually are, and what they had wasn't as bad as they thought. Now, look.
Yeah, that's true.
I could have easily reconciled at the point where I said that I wanted to start dating again. All of a sudden, it was like, can we work this out? And I was like, where's this coming from? When I was fighting my ass off, the light switch couldn't come on. So now that I have turned the light switch off, I can't turn it back on. You know what I mean? I've given up on trying. So,
hey, Malik, I want to ask you.
So, okay, you was miserable with me, but now all of a sudden you're not miserable no more. What happened?
Malik, I wanted to ask you a question earlier, Malik. Mm-hmm. When your wife got divorced the first time, did you know? Actually, been divorced twice, right?
Twice, yeah.
Would you still have married her if you knew that people who get divorced are more likely to get divorced a second time, and then people who get divorced twice are even more likely to get divorced the third time? If you knew that, would you still have married her?
You know, I no. To answer your question, plainly no. And some of it was, I mean, we knew each other from high school. You know, sometimes there's the whole memory lane or whatever. But again, you also got to see where people are currently and not think about, oh, you know, we was high school sweethearts. So there's other dynamics for me in there, Corey. But if outside of that, which you just asked, if we were two people that just met off the street, then no. I think I think the only thing that would have turned that to a yes is I felt like I knew this person, but I only knew them from like 30 years ago. So
we are creatures of habit. The great T.D. Jakes says, he says, yo, we are creatures of habit. You need to practice before you do something. He said, men, you can't be faithful once you get married. You got to be faithful 3 or 4 girlfriends ahead of time. So when time you get married, you know how. It says, women, you can't start being wise once you get married. You need to start acting wisely 3 or 4 boyfriends ahead of time so you understand how. And so when we constantly are doing the same thing over, i.e., get in a relationship, get out of a relationship, get in a relationship, get out of a relationship, get in a relationship, get out of a relationship. All you're going to do is when relationship gets hard, the only thing you really know how to do is get out and start over for a new.
Corey, you make some very valid points.
He does make some very valid points.
They're not always in the prettiest package, but you've got some good points in the package, that's for sure.
What I need is a 60-year. What I really need is a 65-year-old woman and a 25-year-old body. That's what I need. If I can get that, game over.
Game over.
Well, you're not.
You gotta open your. You might have to open this critiques up a little bit more and get maybe one child.
What, Cornelius? I mean, for me, that makes no sense to me. That's lowering. For me, that would be lowering my standards. I've waited this long to have only one woman say that she's the only person to carry my seed. Why would I lower my standards if I waited the last 20 years? I don't have kids, not by accident. I've been purposely not trying to have children. Because why? Because having kids with one woman means that much to me that I will wait. My own mama came to me last week and told me, Corey, you should adopt. I said, why? I said, Corey, because the type of woman that you're looking for does not exist anymore. Wow. You're going to end up dealing with a woman the women that are out here now are overweight. They got 1 or 2 children. They don't want to join your team. These are all the women that you don't want, Corey. And she says, Corey, you will be a great father, great mentor, great leader. I don't want you to miss out on fatherhood because the type of woman that you're looking for doesn't exist. And I was shocked. Does these women gotta exist?
Like or you need to change where you're looking for them at too.
Cornelius, I'm looking everywhere.
you ain't looking everywhere.
Cornelius, believe me, bro.
I 5 times.
Cornelius, I went to a speed dating place last week.
Oh, that ain't there. I said church.
Don't get me started with women in church. the women, don't get me started with women in church because these women in church only follow everywhere. These women in church only follow the rules of Christianity when it's convenient. When it's convenient. When it's not convenient, they're not following the rules. They're not following the rules. Like, do these Christian women know that a woman cannot file for divorce? A woman cannot leave her husband unless one thing, it's not the infidelities, it's if he's no longer fit to provide for the household. not because she's not happy, not because things just aren't materializing, not because she thinks she can do better. If you tell them that, they're like, oh, no, what you mean? The Bible also tells you to obey your husband. I ain't obeying no man. Shoot, I'm making all this money. I got to do.
The hands.
I ain't doing all
that's
that.
women out here, period. I mean, you know.
Come on,
They
now.
all saying the same thing.
Do you
Church
talk
or
with
not
your
church.
hands like that? Look, your hands are folded. Do you talk with your hands like that?
I do not. You are never going to get that out of me.
But it just depends on what
They
type of church
fold
you
it
go
tight.
to.
They
Like,
fold it tight. They just fold it tight. No, I'm just joking.
But in all seriousness, I do want to share this with people because I've been doing this for the last 6 years. All serious jokes aside.
No, I want to get some closing remarks from each of you. Go ahead, Corey.
Okay. I strongly recommend to people, humble yourselves. Men and women, humble yourselves. Go talk to the people who have been married 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Buy them dinner. Ask them, I want to have an honest conversation with you. Because we get training in almost everything we do in life. We get training for a driver's license, our jobs, our careers, how to operate a cell phone. We get all this training, except for the one thing in life that's probably the most important decision you're ever making in life is who you choose to partner with. We get no real training with that.
Yeah.
Which is why I said, Cornelius, go talk to your parents. Talk to the people who have failed marriages and ask them a real question. Why did your marriage fail?
Yeah.
Why did you leave? Was it really worth being by yourself?
Yeah.
Not just 16 alone. Ask these questions. Learn from their wisdom. Take these things into your relationships.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And I say that because some people, I say that in closing, is this. We've all been in an airplane before, right? We've been in an airplane. We know what it does. We know where it gets to. We understand the concept of a plane. But if I asked you guys to sit in the cockpit and try to fly it, 90% of people couldn't even turn it on. Why? Because you've never seen it. We're at the point now that we don't really see, especially in the Black community, we don't see functional relationships enough to really understand what we're doing. We don't see the inside of it. Most of us know how to drive cars by the time we're 16 years old is because we've been inside, from the back seat to the passenger seat, and we watched them turn the car on, put gas in, do all these type of things. So when it came time to actually be able to start driving, we kind of really had a real understanding how to navigate without dying.
Definitely give us some good analogies and metaphors, Corey.
Yeah.
All right.
Malik. Go to compass.
Oh man, what was this advice?
Closing remarks.
Oh, closing remarks. Okay, good. Because I don't have advice. Closing remarks. Look, and Cornelius will probably help me with the verse. Any relationship is going to be tested. You know, I think the Bible verse talks about going through the fire, sharpening the iron. You know, there's going to be rain, right? You know, if I quote New Edition, there's going to be some hard times. I think that you know, when Corey talks about having a partnership, when somebody's your partner, you know, like he gave the analogy of his brother, his mother, his parents is a partner. It doesn't matter what you guys go through. You just can't fathom cutting your parents off or quitting on your parents, just like, you know, your parents wouldn't quit on you. Yeah. And so if you are forging that partnership and a lifetime partner, you just have to understand that there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some moments where you might have to just walk away and say, you know what, I need a moment. But the key is after you take that moment to come back together and sharpen that tool so that it's stronger. That's really all I can, only notes that I can leave. And my, you know, if I am to go into another relationship, I need somebody who understands that and who also understands that You know, I can be stubborn. I can shut down. I can be a typical Taurus. You know, sometimes my actions may speak louder than my words, but truly, I'm loyal and I don't give up easily. If I gave up, it's because I've had no other option but to give up.
Okay.
That's just, yeah. So that should be for anybody. Like you should not give up unless you're given no other option but to give up.
Yeah.
That's really all I can say.
Okay. Cornelius?
I would say for me, I guess it'd be some a little bit of advice and things that I'm actually doing myself is really just asking God for clarity, and just discernment, you know, in how I move in my relationships and how I go forth, and even in dating before, you know, there'll be times where I pray, and there was times where I actually got out of relationships because I was literally praying, and God told me like, nah, this is not it. You need to get out of this. And so I think it's just trying to be very key to listen to that as much as possible. You know, listen to yourself, listen to your, you know, we say a gut feeling. I guess people say I got that gut feeling about the situation. You know, a lot of times you need to listen to yourself. It's something that's speaking to you. So, and then, like I said, just, you know, having constantly asking for clarity, you know, on how to move, and you know, I always ask, you know, we always say, you know, we ask God, you know, hey, this is not for me, take, take it away.
Take it away.
And so that's how I've always moved, and that's how I always would tell anybody to move. Is definitely, you know, go through something, but also make sure you always pray for discernment. You know, when you're going into a situation and you're trying to scope for somebody out, because God will reveal it. He will show you. You know, regardless of whatever it is, something gonna pop out, or you know, that phone gonna open up, and you be like, and you're trying to look, but you can be like, wait a minute.
Absolutely. One of the women actually said that in the episode, the Changed Ever After episode.
Right, because it's funny. I have
like, what are you going to do with this information? Yeah,
right. Because I have a homeboy. I would say I have a homeboy that dates a lot of women, and he's gotten multiple women pregnant at the same time, and then two, some of them might not even known. Oh, he had another baby over here, and then it was a situation recently where and it's so funny. You know, I don't know if it was me or whatever happened, but she found out through just, you know, being around him, whatever, and then he left, and I guess she knocked some papers over, saw a piece of paper, and it's like, wait a minute, this is a birth certificate. And like, wait a minute, you know, you had a baby back in May, you know what I mean? So it was just like, and you never told me. And so it's like, you thought you was gonna hide this. In his mind, he was like, I'm gonna hide this as long as I can, because if I tell her I got another baby with somebody else, she's gonna put me on child support. So he tried to hide it as long as he can.
Oh my goodness.
But at the same time, God is going to, regardless if you're saved or not, God's going to reveal it. You know, you're trying to hold on to it. You're trying to, like, you know, have some skeletons in the closet. You know, that stuff it's going to pop out some kind of way. And so it's just being key to listen and be aware of what's going on. So I would say definitely pray for discernment, pray for clarity all the time. Because God's going to, some going to slip up and some going to pop out. You're going to find out what's really going on.
Absolutely.
I got one thing to say this really quick.
Okay.
I now just figured out, Cornelius, why we so tight. You sound like my brother. My brother speaks so highly of you. Oh, I bet you Cornelius is a man of God. Is Cornelius getting this success? Yo, you sound just. This is why I rock with you so hard, Cornelius. You sound just like. You're my brother.
I don't think I met your brother yet.
No, you haven't. But y'all gotta meet because I'll tell him stories about your stuff that you say and the way you say it, and he's seen stuff. He's like, yeah, Cornelius definitely a man of God, Corey. Yeah, you ever about praying with Cornelius? You know, blah, blah, blah. You go to church with him more. I just realized you sound like my bro. That's why I rock with you so hard, Cornelius.
You know what? And I think I mentioned it when I reached out to you guys. Corey, you were referred to me. And then I watched some videos of you, and I kept seeing videos of you and Cornelius and your chemistry.
What video was that one?
This one was you calling someone to pray with them.
Oh, yeah, Corey said pray for.
Yeah, so that was just one of a few, and I was like, I'm just gonna reach out to Cornelius too. Maybe he'll do it too, because it just seemed like a good pairing to have you both on the show. So
that's my bro.
Yeah, that's
this has been really informative. And there have been times in this conversation where I really wanted to speak up and offer the female perspective. And look, Corey, this is what I'm capable of doing. I sat back and listened and did not interject with my female perspective because we've done that show. I wanted to really give you all the platform. So I let it be said, let the male perspective be known. So thank you all for this conversation. Before you go, though, share any project, Instagram handles where people can find you on social platforms, or any projects that you want to share before we close out.
I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
So my Instagram is Cornelius Bryant, Cornelius Bryant _ Dream Chaser. That's find me on Instagram. And then my website is www.c-bryant.com.
Okay. Malik?
Yeah, my Instagram, you can find me on @MadFlavorTV. That's @MADFLAVOR TV. I have to spell it out because people always think flavor. And I say, no, I'm not the flavor unit. That's Queen Latifah. I have some television and film projects that I'm working on. So hopefully you guys will be seeing them soon on platforms like Amazon Prime and Tubi. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And you can always catch Mad Flavor TV on streaming platforms as well.
Okay. And Corey, we didn't see this official trailer you've got behind you.
Oh, I mean,
but give me the link. I'll put it in the episode notes. How about that?
Well, actually, we just finished doing a 6th episode for The First Day King. It's hilarious.
I bet.
It's all about. It's pretty much just a sitcom. Just about dating right here in Washington, D.C. with me and some of my friends. I produced it, wrote it, directed it.
Okay.
A lot of it based on real life stories. Like there's a lot of dating stories I got that we put into place. So we just finished that up. Right now, me and Cornelius are working on a project called DC Undercover. It's a drama written, directed by your boy here.
Okay.
So any actor
I think I did see a trailer for that.
Yeah,
you put the trailer out.
Yeah, I put it out a while ago, but then the First Day King thing really took off, so I had to really key into that. So now we're back to filming DC Undercover.
Okay.
You can follow me at Corey Beelin, COREYBELIN. You can also follow me at First Day King on Instagram and all platforms. And right now we're just looking for a home to put First Day King on. Like I said, it's hilarious. It's the first 3 episodes have tested through the roof. It's so Malik, you want to sit down and talk to me, bro? Like I said.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's talk. I would love to put the trailer on. I'm doing a premiere for a reality show. It's called Let's Paint Him. It's kind of like Jocelyn's Cabaret or Magic Mike meets American Idol, so it's a little different.
But also, mine is not a reality show. Like I said, it's
I know yours is a scripted sitcom.
So like I said, so I'm always looking for talent. Anyone here that wants to be an actor or a film, I'm looking for all types of talent, because I understand what it's like when you got a passion for something and a skill set for something, and certain people just won't give you an opportunity to either learn or show your skills. So I'm always open to take on new talent in any level possible, whether it's writing, producing, directing.
So what's the best way for them to reach out to you then? Should they reach out to you DM on Instagram or
just slide in my DMs?
Okay.
All right.
But I would love to come back onto this platform and actually premiere the trailer on your show, and then can have your people take a look at the trailer and see what they think. And like I said, it's a lot of fun. A lot of it, 98% of it's all based off of real life situations and dating shit. So if you guys love Insecure, you absolutely would love The First Day King.
I can imagine. If it's anything like the conversations, the nuggets you've been sharing tonight, I'm in. Right. Can't wait to see it. All right, guys. Well, I will let you get back to your evenings. Thanks so much for a great conversation. Really.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Everything I thought it would be. Thank you. Bye-bye.